welcome to episode 4 of the Live Motocross podcast. You're joining me, Sophie McGinn, and my co-host, Darren Bartholomew. I'm going to call him the co-host this time, seeing as we've got him on more than one episode. Darren, how are you doing?
I'm really good, guys. Thank you very much. I'm very glad for that honour. Thank you very much for stepping me up to the plate. No longer I feel a guest anymore. However, we've had some great guests already and really looking to this episode number 4 as well. I'll let you introduce because I get all a bit jittery and nervous about this guy because he's one of my, strange to say, but my commentating legends that I've taken a lot of influence over, I should imagine, and love hearing from him and stuff like that. So far, I'll let you introduce him.
That's it. So we have got the voice of motocross and MotoGP over the years, Roger Warren.
Hello, everybody.
How are you doing, Roger?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm the same as everybody else. I'm stuck at home. I've done all the jobs. I've done all the decorating. I've polished my bike. I've done everything. And now it's just trying to sort of find something else to do and amuse myself. But hey, it's quite nice actually not chasing around everywhere. So just trying to make best use of the downtime.
That's it. So one of the main reasons why we wanted to get you on the podcast, Roger, is to find out a bit more of background info from you. Well, one, really, because I'm sure you've got plenty of stories to tell from racing over the years, but more about what led you on the road that you're on now in the racing world. How did you get started?
It's a typical story of most commentators. It's I used to race. I was a very lowly ACU junior. Did that for probably 8-9 years. My elder brother got me into it. He started racing when I was about 3 weeks old, apparently. That was when I went to my first race and trailed around after him as a kid, thrown in the back of a van. Going off racing with him week after week. So that's how my love of motocross came. They throw me in the back of the van, normally kick me out about a mile down the road and say, find your own way in so we don't have to pay for you. So I was about 16 before I actually went through the main gate of a motocross meeting. From there, got my own bike, same as everybody else. Got myself financed to buy a bike and spent the next 10 years basically working to try and finance racing, spent all my money on my bike, never any good, but loved it. Then, by chance, I got to know some sidecar passengers down in Portsmouth, George Skeets, Barry Williams, people like that who were top of in the sidecar business at the time. And they said, come training, because I used to go training every week. So I went to first training session with them thinking, I'm Jack the Lad, solo rider, I can show these boys a thing or two. Into it, I was outside throwing up because they absolutely mullered me and they weren't even breaking sweat. These boys, it always makes me chuckle a little bit when over the winter you read stories of everybody saying, oh yeah, I've been in the gym, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm thinking, yeah, you go down with those boys for a couple of sessions, then you know you've been working. These boys, they're hard. So I love the training. Went into sidecars purely because, again, just chance of being in the right place. Somebody said, there's a race at the weekend, somebody needs a passenger. Do you want to go? And I said, yeah, okay. Never done it, didn't have a clue. Got in the bike, went down the start straight, 30 sidecars bashing into you, knocking the crap out of you. And I'm thinking, what the hell have I done here? Fell out 3 times on the first lap. But that was it. Loved it. Following weeks, put my solo bike up for sale and started sidecars. Slightly less rubbish at that. I got up to British Championship standard, did international license, did a few. Absolutely loved it, but never got to the top level because I didn't have that extra 10% that those boys had. They were nothing could defeat them, and I would get to a point and think, that's it, I've had enough. They would not. You could not beat them boys. So loved it, made some friends for life because the sidecar community are like that. It's such a tight-knit community. Loved doing the racing, loved going. First time I've been racing abroad, so I got the abroad experience, that sort of stuff. That led me to Langrish, Ken Hall Trophy, which was my local race. Went there one year. John Old, who was the legendary commentator at the time, said there was a Sidecar International class there. And he said, "You've done Cycars. Here's a microphone. Go and interview those boys." So they lined all the racers up. And I'm going down the line asking them some inane, stupid questions, which was going okay until I got to a German crew who I asked some complicated question to. And the guy just smiled at me and then launched into a long conversation in German because he didn't speak English. I'd never checked to see whether he spoke English or not. So that sort of taught me something straight away. Following year, John Mould unfortunately had passed away, so they needed a commentator. So they said, "Do you want to have a go?" I said, "Yeah, great." And they said, "You're working with a guy from Southampton." So this vision in a white suit, white jeans, shirt turned up, long flowing hair, straight out of an 80s porn movie, which turned out to be Paul Hardy. Came up there next to me, and we worked. We had such a good time. It clicked, and we've worked together ever since. So that then led to a Maxis Championship round on the Isle of Wight following year at Arraton, Gore Basin, first big meeting they had there. So we went across on the ferry, did that race, which then led to the GP the following year on the Isle of Wight, which has led to every GP since. So I've done every British GP since 2004. That in turn then led me to meet some of the Ustream people, and they got very interested, and they then invited me to come and do a Nations. So I did the first Nations. I did, let's think, that was 06, of course, Matley Mason. So, and I've done every since then, apart from one in America, which was Glen Helen. I've done every one, including Red Bud, and every nation since then. I am the English speaker. I love it. Abroad, they don't call you a commentator; they call you a speaker, which makes perfect sense. So,
well, yeah, it's what you're paid to do.
Yeah, exactly. So I am the English speaker, and luckily I get invited to go to every nations, and including Erne if it happens this year, which is unbelievable. So that happened. Meanwhile, did a meeting down in the West Country of Maxis where Jack Bernacle was on the microphone and I was his sidekick. Jack sat in the commentary tower and averse himself to a regular supply of hot food and drinks during the day and dispensed me right at our end of the circuit in basically stood in some bushes with a microphone next to the marshal, all on our own for the whole day, commentating. So that's how I got to know Jack. Then Jack couldn't do a Eurosport gig, so he suggested me. So Eurosport came on the phone and said, "Can you come up and do one?" They said it's the Japanese GP 2004 live, so it went out at about 2:00 in the morning. And they said, "Here's the address, studio, Drury Lane in London," and that was it. Never done it, never had a clue what I was doing. I rang Jack up and said, "What do I do?" And he said, "Well, basically, you go in the door. Here's the door code key. The light switch is on the left-hand side, and that's it."
You joke?
Yeah, that was it. I'm in this whole building on my own in darkness. Walked in. There's the studio and all the equipment and a set of headphones. Sat there, 2:00 in the morning, all on my own. Put the headphones on, hoping someone would talk to me. And about 5 minutes before the race was due, some little French voice came through and said, "Hello, yes, are you ready, motocross commentator?" That was it.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so that was it. There was no one to ask anything, no one in the building, no one anywhere near, just this voice in Paris. So I did the Japanese GP live, and that's how I got into Eurosport.
Wow.
The thing is, mate, well, I mean, obviously,
That's crazy.
I've been in exactly that situation. I've done Hawks and International and had to go over to the little, you know, the hotel over in the middle that we call it and whatever else, been in exactly that position. But what I just wanted to say, it's such a steep learning curve, everything that you've gone through there. If you can cope with that, surely you can cope with anything that happens with regards to your speaking, commentary, whatever you do.
It teaches you fast. Yeah, you have to wing it, and then obviously you have to learn the skills which everybody who first time sits in has to learn. Which in other words means you have to commentate while listening to somebody in Paris talking to you, and setting you up and counting you down for breaks and that sort of stuff. So you have to talk and listen at the same time. So you learn stuff like that. That then led me to, I did a year of World Superbike for Eurosport alongside Neil Hodgson, who is a mad motocross fan. Hodgson loves it. Neil Hodgson, for those of you who don't know, Superbike champion, current commentator on BT Sport for MotoGP. So BSB, World Superbike champ, MotoGP rider. But his first love is motocross. He actually told me once in confidence, he said, given the choice of being world motocross champion and world superbike champion, I'd take motocross all day long. Love it. Absolutely. Yeah, loves it. Same as Johnny Ray. I mean, everyone knows Johnny Ray.
Johnny Ray, yeah.
That's his first love, motocross. Everyone knows that. And they're all the same. So did a year on World Superbikes with them. Next stage, MotoGP, MXGP, MX1 as it was at the time. Ustream said, we've got a race coming up in Qatar. Would you be interested in doing that? Which, was the first round. So I contacted them and they said, yeah, come out. And I'm thinking, this is weird. Went to Qatar and did the circuit commentary there. Did that again the following year, which then they said, can you come back? It's weird. Went to the GP first week in March, the Motocross GP, did the commentary, and on the way out, they said, by the way, are you interested in doing MotoGP for us? So I was back there 2 weeks later doing MotoGP, which actually was on the date of my 25th wedding anniversary. So that didn't go down very well.
What an opportunity though, mate, because you are like us, anything two wheels you're well into. And it kind of leads us to one of the questions. Obviously, there's so much going on there, and you've had to learn very, very fast, the same as what I had to as well, by the sounds of it. But how you found the difference between MXGP and MotoGP, and how was the change, and is there a preference? How?
Oh, man.
Oh, I know. Sorry, we do that to you. We put you right on the spot, by the way.
Well, the problem is I love everything motorbikes. So I love MotoGP, love superbikes. Motocross is always my first love, but I love all of that. The difference is night and day, has to be said. MotoGP is massive. Each team, I mean, Ducati, probably they go there and they will have 100 people in their hospitality unit. So it's huge. Everything is huge. The bikes are unbelievable. The technology, the sound, because there's no silencing, they're straight through exhaust. So the sound blows you away. And when those bikes come down there at 218 miles an hour past you, and they're just flat past, it's MotoGP is unbelievable. That's the good bit. The bad bit is it's very, very, very clicky and enclosed, and it's not accessible like motocross. Motocross, you can go and talk to your heroes. You can stand and see people. You can get a selfie. You can chat. You can stand right up next to the track. Mm-hmm. Everything that goes with it. MotoGP, unless you've got the right pass, you ain't going anywhere. And you don't get near the riders. Rossi. It's fantastic. One time I looked down from the media centre, and you can look down on the pit garages, and there's all the team garages, and there's one garage with hundreds of people stood at the back of it, and that's Rossi's, and they're all waiting to get an autograph. Well, he comes out and he literally walks 10 metres from his pit garage to the team office, and security guards fend him off right the way through there. So you never get near anybody. You don't see anybody. So it's very clear, very exclusive, whereas motocross is still fan friendly. I know sometimes you have to pay for a pit pass or whatever, but you can still see the guys, you can still talk to them, and that's the difference. But professionalism, money, setup is just incredible in MotoGP, and MXGP is getting there. It is night and day different to what it was 10, 15 years ago. So whatever people say about Ustream, or In Front as they're called now, they have made a difference. They have brought it forward, and it is night and day better, 100%. But it is still a world away from that level. But I don't prefer either. Motocross is my first love, always will be, no doubt about that. But I love everything that goes with the MotoGP. There's some good people there. Trust me, there's some really nice people. Neil Hodgson, people like that, who are the media people, are brilliant. But it's very, very, very cliquey. If you're not in that group, then you forget it.
Well, just to give some feedback off that, I haven't missed one MotoGP British Grand Prix for years on end. Being the family, we always go, and because that's my absolute another passion of mine. And again, very much like you, motocross is my first. But we have been camped out on Day of Champions, waiting for Rossi to come out for 6 hours or more before you even see him come out. And I had a little balance bike that I had for my son Jack, that all painted up in Rossi colours with the number 46 on the front. And he came down the steps, and I kind of just flung this bike at him over the top of the other people. And he saw the 46 and he said, "Oh, this is cool." And he actually signed the front of the bike for me. But in 10 years of going there, that's the very closest I've ever got to him. And then I won a Facebook competition with Yamaha for a meet and greet with Lorenzo and Rossi on the same day. And unless you get that experience or pay ridiculous money to get them, you will not get anywhere near them. And as like you say, when you go into the MXGP paddock, yes, you might have a small charge to get in there, but you can get to speak to the guys. They'll come over there, sign, they have photos. It's so much more friendly and a bit more open. Whereas MotoGP, unfortunately, like you say, is a different world altogether.
Well, I'm sat in my office now looking at a selfie that I got on the podium in Qatar with Rossi, Dovi, and Marquez. So Valentino Rossi actually shook my hand and said, "Good job," which that blew. See, at the end of the day, something like that, because I'm a fan. I'm the same as everybody else. I'm a fan, and if someone like Valentino Rossi talks to me, I'm thinking, "Oh my God."
You put them on a pedestal, don't you? You put them up there as
sure.
this god, and it's really weird to explain. And I get it whenever I meet any person from the biking fraternity, especially when they're high up there like that. There is an aura about the guy, and until you're within 5 feet of him, you won't get it. There is a definite aura about the guy, and he just put your hand, your arms start tingling, your hairs go up on your forearms. It's really weird to explain.
Do you know the funny thing though? There's in Qatar, there's a lad who goes every single year who is a Rossi lookalike, and he dresses in all the kit. He puts the sunglasses on the lot, and he looks pretty much like him. And he spends his whole time walking around pit lane, or around the back, the paddock area, and people are taking in. They're swamping. They're getting autographs. They're getting selfies, and he's loving it. He's more famous than the real thing. Because you never see the real Valentino Rossi. This the whole weekend mobbed. He's having a whale of a time.
Can you imagine that? Oh my God! You know, as a double for him, you'd be absolutely amazing day, wouldn't it? You get in everywhere, wouldn't you? To be fair.
Yeah, well, he's famous now, because everybody saw him. And nothing. Fair play to you, mate. Fair play.
So, what would you say your sort of favourite part of your job altogether is, Roger?
A favourite part is I go back to the fact that I've said I'm a fan. It's meeting my heroes. I'd sometimes have to pinch myself because I get all access passes, and so I can just walk in anywhere and go anywhere. And I go and meet my heroes. Farley Castle, the Vets-Nations. What a weekend that is! Don't tell Dave King, but I work there for nothing because I love that whole weekend. And I went to Rick Johnson. I met Rick Johnson, Ricky Johnson, the man. I met him, and 2 weeks later, I did Red Bud, the Motocross of Nations, a couple of years ago. Pulled into the car park. This big pickup pulls in there, gets out of the door. It's RJ. And he comes across and says, "Hey, Roger, how you doing?" I'm thinking, oh, my God, Rick Johnson.
No way.
He knows my name. And stuff like that. That's what
That's when you know you've made it, surely, mate, in moments like that.
This year at Aston, I'm queuing up for a pass at the Nations. Roger Da Costa comes wandering across and just starts talking. I'm thinking, who the hell does he think I am? He's probably confused with somebody. Yeah, and Jeffrey Hurlings will come over and start talking, just have a chat. And I'm a fan. I mean, if you're not a fan, you don't get it. But
No.
me, that I love that. I come home because my wife is not into it at all. You know, and I come home and say, "Guess who I met this weekend?" You know, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah," and she said, "Oh, yeah, that's nice. What do you want for your dinner?"
Completely unfazed.
Brings me straight back down to earth. But I mean, my office is surrounded by pictures I've got with people. You know, Jeff Emig, people like that. They're heroes of mine who I watched and and you saw during the time. And I now know them. I've got them on speed dial and talk to them. And sometimes I think, oh my God, what's happening?
Do you know what? That is my next question. Here we go, mate. I'm really going to put you on the spot now. This is my very first question that I wrote down a couple of days ago when I was thinking about this. Who is the most famous person you've got in your contact list on your phone? And that can be generally, it could be for the motocross fraternity.
Oh, this is a good one.
Now,
Who would you? Well, it depends what you class as famous, really. Neil
famous, yeah,
Hodgson's, we're good buddies. Chat all the time. You know, world superbike champion. He's on my list. Several riders are on my list there. Dave Thorpe, people like that. Thorpe, for God's sake, I used to go to Farley and watch the British GP and peer through a little tiny crack in the awning, hoping to get a glimpse of Thorpe. Now, chats away as though we've known each other, for years, and you think, what's happening? What is going on?
yeah, it's
Things
really
like that.
surreal, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, people like that. Jack Bernicle and I talk all the time. And, Jack is, I know some people, knock him, but Jack is a legend. He is an absolute legend, and he loves motocross. Absolutely loves it. You cannot fault the guy's enthusiasm. And I've grown up listening to Jack for years and years and years. And now him and I are good buddies. And it's things like that, and as I say, riders, who I would be scared to go and talk to now. Chat to them, and legends like that. I'm so lucky. I've been lucky all of my career by just being in the right place
Right place at the right time.
yeah. And to be honest, this will tell you the difference. Paul Hardy, who I spoke about earlier. If you said to Paul, given the choice, would you go and watch a British Grand Prix or would you go racing your bike? He'd take riding your bike every week. Me, even when I was racing, if there was a British Championship round locally, I'd go and watch that rather than ride, because I would love going to watch my heroes and watch these guys. So my job, if you wrote down what would be your dream job, this would be it for me. It's because it's everything I want, and I get paid. Come on. Get better than that, does it?
It doesn't get better than that, no. So, commentary or speaking, however you want to frame it.
Speaker,
We're not.
I like that. I like being called speaker. That's good.
No, okay.
Called a lot of other things.
And I have, mate, to be fair. But the thing is with commentary, everybody thinks that it's easy. It's an easy thing to do. And don't get me wrong, and Sophie's the same. We love speaking and talking about the sport that we love. For me, talking about bikes is no issue whatsoever. But what I will say, and being on the other side of the fence, Roger, and I think you'll back me up with this one, it's not easy. You've got to remember that you probably can't say the same thing twice at any occasion in the whole probably 6 or 8 hour stint that you're doing. So the thing is, you get the keyboard warriors and they're saying, oh, such and such is rubbish and whatever else. But until you've been in that position, I don't think you can really comment. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, if you're easily offended, then you shouldn't do it, because I try and avoid social media as much as possible, because people say some nasty things, and unfortunately, my character is 10 people can say you're brilliant, and if one says you're an idiot, that's the one that sticks with me and upsets me.
Yeah,
So
completely
I try
get
and
that.
avoid that, and you will get that.
Yeah, I get that as well.
Some people, you get on their nerves and they don't like you, and you've got to live with that. It's hurtful, but and as the live commentary, you will make mistakes, you will get stuff wrong, and unfortunately, because it's live, it's gone. You can't withdraw it. Unlike if you're writing a piece somewhere, you can reread it and correct stuff. Once you've said it, especially on TV, it's gone. And what what happens is the following week you'll be somewhere and somebody will come up to you and say, "Oh, how are you? Yeah, I heard you on Eurosport last week or something. Yeah, you did a great job." And you think, "Here it comes." And they say,
There's a but.
"You got this wrong. He wasn't champion in 2016. It was 2015 or something like that." And someone will correct you and tell you stuff you got wrong. And they're 9 times out of 10, they're probably right. So you have to take it on the chin. But people, as you say, it's not so much they think they can do it, but they do pick you up with sometimes with the best of intentions, but they'll pick you up on mistakes. And it happens. No one's going to, as you say, no one's going to talk for hours on end without getting something wrong or whatever. And unfortunately, in the era of social media, that gives license to people to pick you up and have a go. But you got to live with that. But then that's why I spend, especially over the winter, hours, days, weeks doing preparation, so that it gives me something to talk about and I can check my facts. Because on the heat of the moment, sometimes you think, "Hang on, was he a 4-time champion or was he 5?" And you need to be able to refer to something, or I do, and that's how I work. Is I can then refer to my notes. And I always try and come at it from the point of view of a fan. Is what makes it interesting? Anyone can stand there and say, "Oh yeah, Jeffrey Hernings is first, Tony Caroli's second," and that sort of stuff. You can see that. What you want is to try and pad that out a little bit by giving maybe some
Hmm.
little facts or a bit of information or something that you might not know about those riders. So you've got to say what's happening, but you can pad it out and make it a bit more interesting. And I know that when I'm at home, if I'm watching a race and if someone can then tell you stuff like that, I think, "Oh, that's interesting." And that's the way I try and come at it, which is why it's always good working with someone, a rider or an expert. Because when I was with Rob Andrews on Eurosport and I've worked with Paul Malin before, I mean, Mailer's brilliant because he's been there and done it. And they can see stuff that I don't see because I've never ridden at their level. So I can say so and so's crashed. But they can then look at it and look at the replay and say, "Oh, yeah, well, look, this is what happened. And da, 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 da. That's why." And you think, "Yeah, brilliant." Now, I can't do that. Those guys can because they've been there and done it at the top level. And it's trying to make it interesting. But as I'm going back to my point, I try and talk to the ordinary fan, whereas sometimes I think some of the ex-rider commentators, they don't get what it's like for us. They see things and stuff that they sort of take for granted. We don't. So they come at it sometimes from a different angle and sort of assume that the rest of us know stuff, and we don't. So I try and talk to the channel hoppers and people like that, who perhaps haven't watched it before, and explain. And Eurosport are very hot on that. They say, "Don't
Mm.
Jeffrey Hurley is leading." You say Jeffrey Hernings on the orange KTM from the Netherlands is leading. So that if someone has never watched motocross before, knows what's going on.
It's almost like commentary from a
Mm.
layman's perspective. You have to really go back to basics and like talk it right the way through.
Yeah, we assume everyone knows who Caroli and Hurlings are. Well, if you've never watched motocross before, you don't. So you've got to sort of wind it back a little bit and try and talk to everybody.
So, as you mentioned briefly there a little bit earlier when we spoke about Losail and MotoGP and traveling to Assen and all this kind of thing, how do you cope? You've spoken about yet the favourite part of your job, as it were, but how do you cope with the travelling, and does it get quite hard? Because I'd imagine a lot of the time you're on your own, and how do you cope with that?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I usually am on my own. I sometimes hook up with some of the FIM guys because my elder brother is on the work is the chief marshal for the FIM at MXGP, so he goes to every race. So I sometimes hook up with him and Andy Summers and people like that and Ingo Parch, the race director. So I'll try and hook up with them, but inevitably I'm on my own most of the time, and the travelling's a pain in the ass. It is sat in the airport, on the plane, get in the car, all that sort of stuff. It's not enjoyable. How these guys do it for 20 races a year, I don't know. And especially when you go to Argentina, which is sort of a 30-hour trip.
Mhm.
How are you doing that? That's not enjoyable. But as soon as you get to the race, that all goes away, and it's fun then. But the travelling is all. I'm not a good traveller. Some people love it. I don't particularly enjoy that side of it.
And I think me and Soph are exactly the same, because obviously, don't get me wrong, we were UK based and stuff
Yeah.
this last year and whatever else, but we both get anxious over traveling and staying over, and we've had several times. Everybody thinks, oh, he's got the dream job, he's traveling here, there, and everywhere, but it's not always the case, is it? Like you say.
Oh, Qatar's an example, for MotoGP. They think, oh, brilliant. When I did it last year, I actually got outside the hotel for 1 hour on the third day. The rest of the time, it was airport, hotel, track, hotel, track, hotel, and that was it. Airport, back home. So you don't see anything. You literally
Yeah, people don't see that, do they?
circuit. No, and you go to the circuit, and you don't watch the race. I'm sat in a little booth, pretty much commentating from like I would on TV. So they say, oh, you go to Qatar, great, yeah. I actually saw an hour of it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I'm really not complaining. But it's not a holiday. That's the thing. People say to me,
Mhm.
"Why don't you take your wife?" Why don't you? I said, "Well, I'd never see her because I'm working. I'm out the door 7 o'clock in the morning, back 10 o'clock at night. And you're working. It's a job of work, an enjoyable one, and one I love. And I'm certainly not complaining. But it's not a tourist holiday, And if you're doing a full series or something, then it really. I know, talking to the guys who do the MXGPs, they say that sort of by the time you get to about August, you've had enough. Because those guys are doing 60, 70 flights a year. They said you just had enough, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's something you love, and it's a sport you love, but it's not all fun. See, now that
No,
to set the keyboard warriors off, they're saying, "Oh yeah, you're lucky. I don't know why you're moaning," and they're quite right. They're quite right. Not complaining,
no,
but it's not enjoyable. It's really not.
I don't think you can comment until you've been in that position and know what it's like. I mean, I've got a young family, and me and Soph have been, in the caravan in the back there, and we got each other for company or whatever else. But like, there's certain
Oi,
times
oi,
where,
oi, oi.
no, but
I know, steady on.
Oi, steady.
having a cup of tea is what we normally do. We're terrible, but what I was going to say is, you spend a lot of time on your own, and I've got a young family, and I'd love to bring my kids with me, because they see the dad commentating and stuff like that, and they want to get involved. But like you say, it's graft. It's like from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. That is your day. You hardly move. I mean, you feel guilty for going out and having a toilet break.
Yeah, that's as I say. I don't want it to come across as over complaining, because I'm so lucky. I'm so privileged. As I say, I get all access passes, at these races, and can go anywhere and stuff like that. You're so privileged. But sometimes it's not all fun. Let's put it that way. But you just alluded to it. You've got to have. A supportive family. I mean, my wife's brilliant. She never questions. As I say, I went away on our 25th wedding anniversary. And she never said a word. Never complains. Never said. In fact, a lot of the time, she doesn't even know where I am or which country I'm in. But she never complains. Strangely, she always says, "Give me a ring when you're on your way home." But I don't know why she says that. But there you go.
So moving on to some more, more of the legendary races over the years. We touched on the nations a little bit. Now, is it difficult for you to not be biased with Team GB? Because obviously we want to get behind our lads that are racing, but do you find it a little bit difficult?
No, to be honest, it's 100% the opposite. When I do the nations, I work alongside the local commentator, so the national commentator. So,
Mhm.
I'm working with them, and it's their gig, it's their race, it's their local one, so they're always going to be number one. But I work alongside. But what I try and get across to them is they are talking to maybe 30% of the crowd at the Nations, because everyone else is from the rest of the world. I'm talking to them. So they, like Holland this year, Assen, maybe 30% of that crowd were Dutch. The rest were from the rest of the world, and I'm talking to them. So I try and bring in the rest of the world, because I work with the guys, and there's some crazy guys. I work with Case in Holland. I work with Francis in France. I've got Giancarlo in Italy, who are legends in their own countries, and great guys. But nutters, they're all complete nutters. They go at it 100 mile an hour, and they just go crazy. They go completely mad, and they focus purely on their riders. So I'm the opposite. Although obviously, I make sure that I pick out the British guys and make sure I'm up there with them. But I also try and talk to every other country, because no one else is going to. These guys talk about their riders. I talk about everyone else. So I make a conscious effort to try and, because again, we're so lucky, the rest of the world speaks English. So you can guarantee everyone, or pretty much everyone in those crowds, will understand me, whereas only 20 or 30% will understand Ace, the Dutch guy. So, I'm talking to probably most of them. So, in answer to your question, no, I do the opposite. I actually try and talk about all the other countries and give them the same opportunity.
So saying that, what would be your sort of favourite race that you've ever sort of had the privilege to commentate on? What sticks in your mind?
Favourite race ever, or just the Nations? The Nations, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. Anyone who's been will know that. It's fantastic. Everybody who is anybody in motocross is there. That's the brilliance of it. The best riders in the world, all the teams, all the personalities. You will just walk around spotting people for the whole weekend. So the Nations is brilliant. Love it. I actually, in my typical way, done some preparation for this. And I guessed you were probably going to know what my favourite race was. Am I allowed to have three?
We'll let you off, seeing you are who you are. So yes, by all means, carry on.
Right, okay. In order, 2006, Nations, Matley Basin. That took everybody by surprise. The crowd, the amount of people who turned up, just overtook everybody. And I know there were issues, but no one was expecting that crowd. It was unbelievable. In fact, when it started on day one, Paul and I started up, and we were sort of racking people up. The promoter came rushing across to us, saying, "Ease up, lads, ease up. People have heard you talking, and they think they're missing something, and they're pushing the fences down, trying to get in." So, that.
Oh my God.
That was unbelievable. You saw, obviously, Stefan Everts, his last race ever. So he was up for it. And when he went round the outside of Stewart, in Paul Hardy's words, that crowd went wild. Everybody cheering. And that's something like that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. So that was just crazy. That weekend also, digressing, I had just one of the surreal experience. Ricky Carmichael was there. Ricky was meant to be racing, but he got injured 2 weeks before. So he still turned up, and he was mobbed everywhere he went. So he came up on the commentary tower for a chat, and he went down. About 10 minutes later, he came back and he said, "Hey, guys, can I stay and do with you? Because I can't get away from anybody." And that was the only place he was safe from the paparazzi. So he spent most of the day up there with us. So chatting, and I then said to him, "Here, Ricky," I said, "could you do me a little favour?" I said, "Could you just have a word with my son, who's a big fan?" So he said, "Yeah, no problem." So I phoned my son, my eldest son, and I said to him, "Hey, I've got someone here who wants to work with you." So I gave him the phone. Carmichael said, "Hey, Tom, how you doing? Yeah. Are you coming to the race tomorrow?" "Yeah, it's really good. We'll see you. Fantastic. Yeah, nice to meet you. Bye." Off he went. I said, "Thanks, Ricky. That was brilliant." And I said, 2 minutes later, the phone rings, and Tom says, who the hell was that? I said, Tom, that was Ricky Carmichael. Oh my God. He didn't have a clue. Didn't have a clue who he was talking to. So yeah, that was such a big weekend for lots of reasons. So brilliant.
Yeah, I mean the crowd was amazing, the racing was amazing, and I don't think. Well, it's hard to come by. I mean, you'll probably say this because I think I know what's coming on your list. But for a British fan, that day, I've never been as excited in my entire life. I don't think as a motocross fan that day.
No, I'll be honest. Our job was easy because the crowd didn't need a lot of winding up. Everybody was well into it. We had Mexican waves going. We had all sorts of shit going on because everybody was so up for it. It was just, in fact, the crowd was so big that I had to do the podium presentation. And at Matterley, that is about 200-300 yards away from our commentary place. I suddenly thought, shit, I'm not going to make it.
I'm not going to make
because
it because
the
they
crowd
did that
invaded.
start straight.
And I ran and I'm barging my way through, and I'm outside the compound, and there's about 5 rows of people, and I couldn't get there. So literally, some of the Ustream guys picked me up and threw me over the fence, over the top of the crowd, so that I could get to the podium presentation. It was that crazy, That's
Wow.
one. Second one, probably the best out-and-out race I've ever seen was 2006 Desert Martin GP. Stefan Everts, Josh Coppins. Everts was on a perfect season. Coppins was pushing him. He rode for the Cass Honda team at the time. Everts was on the Yamaha. Those two went out, and Josh Coppins was the first to admit he's not a natural rider. But that guy has got so much determination. He would just win races by grit and determination. They went out and they raced for both races flat out, head to head, overtaking. Everts won the first one, Coppins won the second, and won the GP. And as he frequently reminds Everts, he spoiled Everts' perfect season. But why it was such a good race is the second race, they lapped up to 4th place. They were lapping Ken Didyker, Steve Ramon, Clement de Sal, people like that. They lapped up to 4th. Those two, and Everts at the end of it was hanging. They were both, they'd given everything because they raced 100% for that whole race. And Everts wanted the perfect season. Coppins was determined not to give it to him. And it was just unbelievable, that race. A lot of people who were there remember that because that was just a proper race. And it was those two making everyone else look silly.
I think it's easy to remember as well when you see racing like that. Gone are the thoughts of the perfect season. It's just down to you, the track. And I can remember, was it James Noble and Brad Anderson going at it in Pontrilas for a British Championship now, and they were knocking lumps out of each other every single corner. It could have been Marsh. Either way,
Brad, I love Brad. Who can't love Brad? But be honest, if you're racing and Brad comes up behind you, move out of the way because he's.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, isn't it? Because
he's going to get you one way or another. I mean, you talk to the guy, and he's the nicest bloke in the world, but he gets on a bike, and he's just an animal.
That red mist comes down, doesn't it? And he's a different beast altogether once he swings his leg over his bike.
And if he doesn't get you, then his missus will.
You're very brave, mate. You're braver than I am.
Haley's got a temper. I've seen her at races having to be separated because she was ready to smack someone else's mechanic because they were sort of dissing Brad. So I've seen her being pulled off. Yeah, she's pulled off of mechanics like that. Haley's got a temper. Lovely girl. But yeah, the pair of them. If Brad ever retires, that's going to be a sad day. Sad.
Yeah. But it just goes to show you, we remember races like that because the intensity, the heat of the battle, don't get me wrong, it was getting a bit borderline at one point or another, but the crowd were going mental. And I'll never forget that race at Pontrilas as long as I live, just because.
Yeah, that's what you got to see, is racing. The third one, which has also got to be up there, is Nations again, 2016 at Matterley. Max Anstey getting the whole shot and winning the club, winning the races. I mean, that was just tense. That was so tense because everybody is willing Max to win. And, there was times, he slipped off one time and he had to get back, and you're just counting the time down, willing that race to go through. But, Anstey getting the whole shot when he went into the valley, because now there again, if you were there, you may remember this, and I know it's never been done before, but Paul and I did this, and it was one of our proudest moments. Every commentator at a big race meeting will wind the crowd up at the start of the race. Before the race, you wind them up. We did the opposite. Paul Hardy said to me before race one, he said, how about if we try and get everyone to go quiet? And I'm thinking, nah, that's not going to happen. You've got 40,000 people here. That's not air horns, all sorts of shit. That's not going to happen. But we tried it. And we before that first race, we said, right, everybody, be quiet and silent. And then we want you to explode when the race starts. And they did. Come back to me and said it was unbelievable. Everybody went silent, and we counted down and we said 5 seconds, and everyone was silent. And when the gate dropped, bang, we were away, and everybody screamed and was noise. And then we said Anstey's leading, so the noise was unbelievable. And when they went in the valley first time with Anstey leading, just crazy. But we did that, and it's never been done since, to my knowledge, and not before. Is actually we got the crowd, and it worked for all three races. Is it was silence while the riders were on the line and ready to go, and that was a gamble because that could have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, that could have looked very foolish very quickly, I should imagine.
It worked,
but you pulled
and
it off.
It built the excitement to another level, because when that gate dropped and when Anstey led on the first turn, everybody just exploded because that had been building up, and then they just exploded, and that was brilliant. So that was another good day. And I'm gonna chase it, and I'm gonna chase it. I know we can't ignore it, no matter how hard we try. And I'm gonna chase it, and I'm gonna chase it. I know we can't ignore it. What's going on? What's happening here?
I don't know. Everyone's Wi-Fi keeps bloody cutting out, and then I keep losing one of you. But hopefully, we should be all right now.
Well, he's just told me how much he wants for this, and it's every hour it's costing us. It's scary.
You got to realise.
Right, we better get a move on then.
Yeah, it's mounting up now. Who do I send the invoice to, by the way?
Not me, mate. Let's get that straight away.
So, Roger, I know obviously we're in a bit of a predicament at the moment where we're all stuck at home being bored. But what have you been up to? What have you been doing to keep yourself busy and positive?
I'm trying to get as well prepared as possible for when things kick in. I'm meant to be going to Maggiora for the MXGP, which I'm looking forward to. One of my favourite races of the year. Nations, I'm signed up for Erne. Obviously, Eurosport will be kicking in at some stage, so I'm using the time really to just sort of ultra prepare. So just do a bit more homework, get everything up together, ready for when it does eventually kick in. Whenever that's going to be.
Your preparation there, Rog. Obviously, we both worked with Sir Jack at the moment, and he's got a couple of Bibles he takes around with him. What kind of stuff do you take to the race meetings, just out of interest?
No, I did that. I used to have, to be honest, I've got two. When I go to a live race, I try and tend to keep it minimal because, you usually stood out in the open air and it's probably pouring with rain. So you can't go flicking through notes a great deal. So I try and keep it to sort of a couple of 2 or 3 salient points. When I'm doing the TV stuff, then you can spread out a bit more and have loads of notes. So, then you sort of try and get statistics up together on some of the riders. So, to be honest, I read everything I can. So I read all the forums and read everything I possibly can. And that's the only reason I'm on social media is because the riders say stuff on social media that they wouldn't necessarily say at other times. So you can perhaps pick stuff up from that. I mean, you know that better than I do.
Yeah, they're more forthcoming, aren't they, on social media? They seem to be a little more.
Yeah, so you can find out what they've been up to, sort of things they've been doing, and that sort of stuff. So my ethos is always read everything and believe nothing, because you same as me, you're around the races and you get told all sorts of stuff, and if you repeated it, you get yourself in a lot of trouble. So you tend to get to know who you can believe and who you can't. So it's a bit of an act, is sort of trying to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening, without misleading. But that's it, basically. Cycling. Thank God for cycling. I'm quite heavily into that, so I get out cycling as much as I can, and just sort of chilling out, really. Enjoying the sunshine at the moment and chilling out, and doing stuff like this. I'm currently doing voiceovers as well.
I was just about to say, my next question is, I've heard you on quite a lot of voiceovers. What have you been doing there as well?
Yeah, it's the future. That's the way things are now. It's modern technology. Recently I did one for Nitro Circus. A couple of weeks just before the lockdown, I did the first of 4 for Rockstar Husqvarna. They're going to do various updates during the season where they do videos, and we did the first one just before Matley Basin. So I do that. I do quite a bit for the Dutch guys. I've done some for Jeffrey Hurlins. I do Living for the Weekend. It's technology, scripts come through. I've got a local recording studio down the road from me. We go in there. I do the script. They mix it, do their stuff, press a button, off it goes. That's it. It's you don't actually meet the people you're working for, but that's the modern world now. So I'm doing more and more voiceover stuff as well.
That's it.
Because that's luckily. My voice is getting better with age, because that's something that happens, is your voice does improve as you get older. Everything else is going completely the opposite direction. That's why I'm better sort of on things like this when no one sees you.
Going off the back of that then, what sort of tips would you give to someone that wants to get into commentating on races? Do you need to practice at home? What do you need to do?
To be honest, there's 2 ways. If you want to do live stuff, then go to your local track, go to your local race, and just go and volunteer yourself. And I'm sure, if they got a PA system of any degree there, they'll let you have a go, and just do that and work your way up there. And you start doing races, and then you end up doing some of the series and working your way through. You got people like Chris Gazora have done that. Chris is doing a great job at the British Championship rounds. He's worked his way up from some of the AMCA meetings so he's now the national commentator. Other than that, it's online stuff, really. You go on and you can get on, do podcasts, stuff like that. Anything at all like that, where you can get to learn the stuff and learn the way technology works. And it's contacts. I can't say enough that it's being in the right place at the right time. It really is.
I agree.
The more you put yourself about, the more you're going to meet the right people and get lucky and be in the right place at the right time. And that's exactly what's happened to me. My career has been purely that, is just by being somewhere. That's why I love the Nations. I get more work out of being at the Nations than I do the rest of the year, because everyone's there and people come up all weekend and say, can you work this? Can you do that? We want you to work here. And that's the way it works. So really just, with modern technology and social media, the opportunities are endless now. So you can do your own thing with podcasts, or you can, work with people like yourselves. And that's really the way. And people hear you, get to know you, and that's the way it happens. And, sometimes you have to take the rough with the smooth, and you have to do some races that you probably don't want to, and are quite hard work, but that's what you've got to do to build up. And because there's always, the problem that we have now is I'm at the stage now where there's people like Darren coming through. You're the future, you're the next level, and you're knocking on the door and taking jobs away now, and that's the way it is. And there's always someone who is going to work, who'll do the job and maybe do it a bit cheaper or whatever, and come through. So that's the future. So I've got to stay on top of my game, because there's a lot of good people coming through, like yourself, Darren. So I've got to turn the top of my game so that keep you down in your place.
Well, I'm a different mindset to you, though, mate. I think I'm kind of more, and Soph will get this from me as well, that like I enjoy working with people. So don't get me wrong. Yes, I commentate on my own and do the meetings there and whatever else. But I'm very much, I think, to have somebody, especially somebody like yourself or somebody like that, to work with and work as a double act and a duo, I think is far better. There's more of a rapport, I think, goes on as well, especially come race day. And sometimes you miss things, and the other person knows more about it, a particular situation. So I'm never kind of thinking of that. I'm always happy listening to you. You do a fantastic job, and I just kind of don't see it that way, mate. To be fair, I'd rather work with somebody than against them. That's how my mindset is
Listen,
anyway. For sure.
I can't go on forever. I've got no plans on stopping at the moment, but you're coming through, and as I say, with the way social media and online stuff is now, there's so many opportunities because, as you know, there are so many channels and so many things going on there now that
Hmm.
there's a lot more opportunity than there was before, where you just had a couple of TV channels. Now, TV is almost. If you want to watch motocross now, do you watch it on TV or do you watch it online? Probably online. That's the way it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's different. But it keeps me on my toes. So that's good. It stops me being complacent because I know how lucky I am to be doing this. So I know that I've got to keep putting the work in and doing the job so that people keep asking me to do work, then I know that
Hmm.
hopefully I'm doing a reasonable job. When they stop asking you, then that's when you're in trouble.
That's it.
I I'm just gonna throw in a question there, just because you touched upon it ever so slightly, and we've spoken about it in a couple of podcasts already. British motocross, your idea. I know we've kind of got to sit on the fence a little bit as professional commentators, but what do you think the solution is from your perspective then, with regards to British motocross
Well,
and moving
I've got to
forward?
declare an interest here because my elder brother Chris is on the ACU Motocross Committee, so he is obviously
Hmm.
actively involved in promoting the British Championships and deciding what goes forward. He and I get on brilliantly, always have done, but we have a pact. He doesn't tell me stuff um, because if someone then asks me something, I can quite legitimately say I don't know, and I
Hmm.
can't comment because I don't agree with everything they do, and I don't agree with some of the decisions they make. But so it's best we don't talk about it. He's also he's chief marshal for the FIM at the GP, so that's a different kettle of fish. I can we chat about GPs and he tells me all sorts of stuff there that goes on. But the British side of it, because he's involved in the organisation, we try not to talk about it because we don't agree on everything. I've got my own views. I have to say, I try and get to one or two British Championship races during the course of the year if I can.
Hmm.
Um, it could be better. Let's put it that way. It could be better. The riders are out there doing their stuff, but and it's not a criticism, but something is wrong because there's not many people there. There's no excitement. Um, you know, it's and there's a lot of. I'm trying to diplomatically say this.
I was going to say that's a very
Yeah,
diplomatic answer coming here. I can see.
there's a lot of there's a lot of rock stars out there who strut about, with the sunglasses on and all the kit on and the big motorhomes. But some of them need to sort of get their act together and think, hang on, I need to be doing this is actually a bit more hard work. It's not glamour. So there's a lot of people who think they're something special who aren't. But you can't fault at the end of the day, you can't blame anyone because most of the organisers are volunteers, so they're doing it at their own expense,
Hmm.
their own time. So you can't go criticising these people because they're volunteers. I wouldn't want to do it. Hell, I wouldn't want to do it because there's always someone going to complain and moan and say you're doing it wrong. So why would you do it? Thank God they do. So you cannot criticise people. The riders are out there trying to earn a crust and do their best. The teams, the guys who own these teams, they're successful businessmen who have worked hard to earn their money. and they give most of it away to motocross, and get nothing back for it. So
Yeah.
you got to commend these guys.
You, you
These are
can't.
private blokes who no one gives them their money. My local team, CAD Screens here, Lee Webber. No one says, "Here, Lee, have a chunk of money." He has to earn that, and then he goes and spends it on a motocross team. What thanks does he get back for it? Probably not a lot. You got to remember that. It's not. These people are doing it for the love of the sport. So we can criticise and say things have got to change, but you've got to do it. You criticise in a constructive way, not negative. Because if these people walk away, if the organisers, the clubs, the sponsors, the team owners walk away, we're in deep trouble then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really on the back foot then as well. And, as I say, these people are devout, aren't they? They're fans as well from the very beginning. They don't want to see British motocross, fail potentially like it is going. I think we're just going down a route that unfortunately it's snowballing at the moment and something's got to stop. Otherwise, potentially we might miss the thing that we love doing altogether.
I would
That's the
say
worry
one
for
thing
me.
is we're targeting the wrong people. When there's a race coming up, there's big pieces in Dirt Bike Rider, Trials and Motocross, online, all that sort of stuff. But you're talking to the converted fan who's probably going to go anyway. Clubs
Hmm.
Canada Heights have got it right. They will have a stand in the local shopping centre for a couple of weeks beforehand promoting that race, because it's the families and everybody else who you want to get to the race, not the motocross fans. They're going to come. It's everyone else. You want to get new people in there, and you've got to promote the sport to a wider audience. Again, easily said, but that's what we need to be doing. Is you need to promote it to a wider audience. It's no good just sticking an ad in TMX or DBR or something like that, because we're going to go anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it's so easy to say, but very, very difficult to do, isn't it? That's the thing. And, the promoters, they work hard, getting bums on seats and whatever else, no matter what guys they're under. But that's a big, big job, that is. And like you say, I wouldn't want to be doing it. I wouldn't want the risk. They're putting their life on the line the majority of the time. So, yeah, something's got to happen. We've got to migrate somehow, and everybody kind of condense together for the good of the sport. I think is the only thing I will say.
But think about it: you get 1,500 people at a max this round, British Championship round, and yet you get 10,000 at Arena Cross, and Gareth gets God knows how many at Western. So the people are there.
Yeah, exactly. Just jumping on to a quick question that we've had for you, Roger, from Pat Stott on Instagram as well. Now, this is going to be a good one. What is your best or favourite race that you wish you could have commentated on?
Oh, blimey. There's one. There was one. Let's have a think. Stefan Everts and Sebastian Tortelli. That would have been a good one. Where they were the champion. I think it was in Greece, and Everts folded completely, and Tortelli won the championship. That would probably been an exciting one to see. One that I watched, which I would love to have commentated on, and that was at Lommel, and that was fantastic for one reason and one reason only. I think it was about 2008, 2009. Josh Coppins was on the Aprilia, which was a heap of shit. That was a dog of a bike. And Josh was on the Aprilia. He was at Lommel, which is a hard track anyway. He went down on the first turn and got run over by pretty much the whole field. So the subframe is sticking up in the air, the mudguard pointing upwards, the handlebars are twisted, everything is just hanging all over the place. And he got on that bike in race 2, and he got up to 5th, and he was going past people again like DeSalle, Didaika, people like that, and he got right way back up to 5th on a dog bike that was falling apart around one of the toughest circuits in the world. And I watched that from the side, and I would love to have commentated on that, because you could have sort of tracked him through, and that something like that was very special. That was good.
I think the other good thing as well has come out of this horrible downtime that we're seeing at the moment as well. It gives us a chance to just reflect, and I think Motorvision have been putting some of the older
I've
races
just thought
onto
of another one.
YouTube,
Yeah,
which for me has been a
just thought of another
godsend.
one,
Yeah.
which is one of the Motorvision ones, and again, one that I was actually in the crowd. Was I can't remember the year, but it was at Fox Hills, and it was the year that Paul Malin and Tortelli were racing the 125 GP. And 1 year Tortelli won, the second year Malin won, and that was just, those two were going at it for the whole race. Malin was on fire, so that was a hell of a race to watch. So to commentate, that would have been a good one as well.
I've just got one as well that we asked Dave Thorpe this question. Sorry, Sophie, I'm just going to jump in with this one because I'm intrigued to see what Roger's going to do with this one. And we asked Thorpe last week, and I put it to him: what is your most favourite rider and why? Now, we can open this up. This is any era, any continent.
Yeah.
Who is your favourite rider and why?
See, I'm ahead of the game here. I've done my homework on this one again.
I knew you would.
Right, so I've broken it down by decades, basically, on this one.
Oh, God, he has gone diva on us again, hasn't he? There's no straight answer from you, is there?
Yeah. Now, when I was a very small kid and my brother was taking me to races, my hero then was Jeff Smith. And in fact, I've got a crash helmet that my brother got painted for me as a 6-year-old kid in Jeff Smith's colours. So that was in the 60s. 70s, Noisy, because he was local to me in Hampshire. So Noisy was legend, and De Costa, obviously, because he was just the best. But Noisy was just a legend. 80s, Thorpe, Rick Johnson, and because he was, just like it said on his butt patch on his leathers, he was Hollywood, and that was Andre Malherbe. Malherbe just looked cool the whole time. He wore that baby blue O'Neill race kit, and he was so aloof and cool. You never saw him. He'd finish the race and go straight back in the HRC horn, and they'd zip it up so you wouldn't see him. And the next time he'd come out on his bike, do the race and go away. So he was godlike, and he wore this ultra. He just looked cool all the time. Johnson was the man. Then two-hit Rick Johnson. He was just everything. And Thorpe, because he was British and he gave us something to cheer about. 90s, Jean-Michel Bale. Bale just did everything. He could do anything. He won 125, 250 World Championships back-to-back, went to America, got ridiculed and hated the whole time he was there, but ended up winning all three classes, 250, 500 and Supercross, and then just got fed up with it and went MotoGP racing. Same thing, went there, finished last in his very first MotoGP race, ended up being a factory Yamaha rider and pole position and riding a MotoGP bike. So Bale, he just did everything. And then once he'd done that, he'd fed up with that, can't do something else now.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege of meeting him at Farley Castle a couple of years ago. Typical French, a bit aloof, didn't want to speak, but still there.
Was that just to you though, mate, or was it?
Probably, yeah, probably. No. Sometimes they say don't meet your heroes.
No, they do, but naturally, very, very gifted, talented rider as well, and has been pretty poorly as well with this COVID-19 as well. So wishing him the best.
Right. Into the noughties, Josh Coppins. I got to know Josh well, and I'm still in touch with him. He was just such a hard-working bloke and a down-to-earth guy. You could just go up and chat to Josh, and I got to know him really well, so we became good friends. And Carmichael, Carmichael was just, again, not the most naturally talented, but he just ground it out. He just worked harder than anybody and just rode rings around everybody. So he was the best. Current era, there's lots of riders, but I have to say I always liked Jeffrey Hurlins. And again, Hurlins and I get on really well. He actually, digressing a little bit, he said to me on a number of occasions that he listens to me commentating when he's riding. And I know that's true because he actually comes back and picks me up on stuff. He'll come back after the race and he'll say, "You said this.
No way.
You said that." Yeah. And Ken Didyker did that 2014 at the Nations at Teufelstal when he was riding for Belgium. in the third race, De Dijker said, I was listening to you to find out what had happened to DeSalle, his teammate, that last race.
No way.
And yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm thinking, nah, you're having a laugh. But it's true. They told me that they listen for my voice and listen to me when they're going rounds to find out what's happening.
Of course, because, all right, they're getting boarded to say what's going on, but, you know, they wouldn't really know. They're just pushing hard as much as they dare.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're obviously just hearing the PA at certain points, and I know they are, because they're picking me up on stuff and actually saying, especially Hurlings, he'll come back and sort of say, you said that, that's not right. Oh, well, why didn't you do that? Yeah, it's unbelievable. But yeah, Hurlings from the modern era. I love the kid. I love the kid. His riding is another level. You know, he's and now, because I've got to know him quite well, you know, it's but you know, that's not to favoritise him. There's some Geiser is unbelievable. Prado is going to be the next big thing for sure. And these kids are just unbelievable. And the thing, when people try and compare eras of motocross, you can't compare that. I'm sure Dave Thorpe will be the first to agree. You can't compare his era with today.
No.
Because Thorpe, Malherbe, people like that, Jobé, they wouldn't have been able to scrub and do half the things that the kids do now. They wouldn't have been able to do that. And equally, would Hurlings and all been able to ride a 500, 260 brake horsepower, two-stroke for 40 minutes? Doubt it. It's a different sport.
and have a go at jumping Hawkston doubles on it as well. That thing is trying to kill him at every corner.
Yeah, and would they stop for a beer on the last lap of the race when they're leading, like Carlquist did? Don't think so.
It'd probably
drink the beer.
It'd probably be a Red Bull now.
Exactly, yeah, and then they thank the sponsor.
Yeah,
but so you know, the riders now, the things they do, which, you know, unless you see the slow mos, you don't realise what they're actually doing on a bike, and the stuff that they're doing, the scrubbing, the riding, the technique, unbelievable. So yeah, respect to the modern era. I love it. You certainly can't compare. They're all good in their own time.
You know, I think the sports kind of riding has evolved, isn't it? Whereas you used to have to manhandle the bike, you know, in previous eras. Now you've got to gel with it. The technical, like you say, the technical ability of some of these guys and what they can do on a bike is absolutely unreal now. And they're encompassing that in a race as well. So, you know, it's all right to go practicing and try and do it, you know, when nobody's watching you, but to do it mid-race and then watch back mid-moto and go, do you know what? I've just seen the most amazing thing on a bike. I didn't think anybody was capable of that. And then we're seeing it in this moment in time. And to me, that's special as well.
Well, I remember 1998 Sheffield Supercross. It was the first proper Supercross over here, and they brought Jeremy McGrath and Larry Ward over.
Yeah.
And we sort of sat there in the crowd, and there's this, by today's standards, it was a real moderate Supercross track. And we're watching them going around and warming up. And then they said, right, well, we're just going to let Larry Ward and Jeremy McGrath go around on their own on a parade lap before the racing. And they went round and they're doing doubles, triples. And the crowd is just thinking, what is this? What is happening here? Because we've never seen anything like it. You look at that now, and that would be tame now to see something like that. You'd see that in arena cross now.
Yeah.
So things move on. Things move on for sure. That was unbelievable in 1998. Now anybody can do that at the local practice track.
Yeah, definitely.
So that shows how things move on, you know. And who's to say what it's going to be like in 10 years' time? We'll all be on electric bikes then.
We'll be flying by then, mate. We'll be hovering, I reckon.
Electric bikes, mate. That's the future.
Yeah, it is.
There we are. So I think that will probably round up episode 4 then of the Live Motocross podcast. Roger, massive thank you for joining us today. I know it's given you a bit of something to do during this time.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I'm sorry I probably ranted on a bit, but you know, it suddenly makes you sit down and focus on some of the memories. And I've had a brilliant career, and hopefully I've got a few more years to go. But I've really enjoyed it, so thanks for the opportunity, and I hope to see you and everybody else at the races very soon.
Brilliant, mate. Couldn't have put it any better myself.
There we are. So if you want to stay tuned to the Live Motocross podcast, make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes. You've also got Acast, SoundCloud and Spotify. We are on all of the platforms now. So make sure you give us a like, share, and we'll see you in the next episode.